Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz took to the stage last night to accept the Democrat nomination for vice president and gave the biggest pep talk of his career. We have the highlights for you. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump held his first outdoor rally yesterday since the assassination attempt as the Democrat convention continued with their day 3 of speeches. Montana has joined a growing list of states putting abortion rights on the ballot this November. Ballot initiatives that would enshrine the right to an abortion in these states' constitutions will go before voters this fall. And a new wave of COVID-19 is sweeping the United States. That's the word from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which reports 32 states have been found to have very high levels of coronavirus and its variants in their wastewater. Are we going down this path again? A New York woman who was threatened with eviction because she owns 3 emotional support parrots has been awarded $165,000 in damage.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Because in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. And that includes IVF and fertility treatments. And this is personal for Gwen and I.
Last night, Governor Tim Walz was the headliner of the Democrat National Convention in Chicago, where he outlined the Harris-Walz vision to, quote, finish the job, I would say, of destroying our country. In that respect, Walz is the perfect choice for Kamala's number 2. He's a fellow radical left lunatic who wants you to believe he's just your friendly neighbor. He talked a lot about being a good neighbor last night. He talked about freedom. He talked about joy. As governor of Minnesota, Walz has done a lot, but freedom and being a good neighbor is not necessarily at the top of the list. He started out by talking about freedom and how that's important, that we as individuals and we as families have our freedoms.
I'm letting you in on how we started a family because this is a big part about what this election is about. Freedom. When Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. Corporations, free to pollute your air and water. And banks, free to take advantage of customers. But when we Democrats talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make a better life for yourself and the people that you love. Freedom to make your own healthcare decisions. And yeah, your kids' freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in the hall. Look, I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. And I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it. But I'm also a dad. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe.
Tim Walz last night, as he gave a very enthusiastic, pep talk type speech. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute because he called on his experience as a high school teacher and as a high school football coach. But who is Governor Tim Walz? And what has he done in Minnesota? Before Kamala Harris chose him as her running mate just a few weeks ago, most of us never really had heard of Governor Tim Walz. What do people in Minnesota have to say about him? What does his record say about him? The Trump campaign from their war room, their response team, put out a one-page information sheet about Governor Walz. There's some interesting things on here, things that you need to know. For example, Walz signed legislation giving illegal aliens free taxpayer-funded health care. He didn't stop there. He gave them free college tuition, and he also made it possible for them to get driver's licenses, which, by the way, you do understand that once you have a driver's license in one state, it's a lot easier to come to South Carolina, to come to North Carolina, to come to Georgia and other states and just get driver's license in those states. Governor Walz presided over a massive uptick in crime, with overall crime up 30% in his state of Minnesota. Violent homicides up 71% during the time he's been governor, as the ranks of law enforcement have declined. Governor Walz enshrined into law unrestricted abortion on demand until birth and stripped away the right of newborn babies to receive life-saving care. Those are the types of freedoms that Governor Walz supports. Governor Walz opened a new state office entirely dedicated to supporting immigrant and refugees' integration into his sanctuary state. That's the type of freedom he wants. Freedom for illegals, but not freedom for the people of Minnesota to tell these illegals not to invade their state. Governor Walz required public schools to stock menstrual products in boys' bathrooms. Governor Walz's freedom allowed leftist rioters to burn Minneapolis to the ground, who Kamala then bailed out. You remember that? He directed police to surrender their precincts, stalled deployment of the National Guard, and excused the riots as what happens when society, quote, does not put equity and inclusion at the center. That's the freedom that Governor Walz supports. He went on to talk about leadership and, in his mind, the lack of leadership that we would receive under Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Some folks just don't understand what it takes to be a good neighbor. Take Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people who are just trying to live their lives. They spent a lot of time pretending they know nothing about this. But look, I coached high school football long enough to know, and trust me on this, when somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they're going to use it. And we know if these guys get back in the White House, they'll start jacking up the costs on the middle class. They'll repeal the Affordable Care Act. They'll gut Social Security and Medicare. And they will ban abortion across this country, with or without Congress. Here's the thing. It's an agenda nobody asked for. It's an agenda that serves nobody except the richest and the most extreme amongst us. And it's an agenda that does nothing for our neighbors in need. Is it weird? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's also wrong. And it's dangerous.
Just yesterday, Politico fact-checked the governor because he has made that statement about Trump and Vance supporting the Project 2025. It's a known fact that they had nothing to do with it. Even Politico gave him a failing grade on that. Governor Walz, though, backed voting rights for convicted felons, including violent criminals. That's the type of leader he's been for Minnesota, and that's the type of leader we could expect if he became vice president. Governor Walz signed a bill to lessen criminal penalties, expunge criminal convictions, and reopen felony murder sentences. The list goes on. Last night, he tried to convince us that he's just an average guy. He's just a good neighbor, as he gave what he called one of his biggest pep talks ever.
You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. So let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time. Look, we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead. We're going to leave it on the field.
That's our choice, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers.
Peace in Europe has been shattered by the largest European land war since the fall of Nazi Germany. This is the largest war there's been, and this war is going to escalate and escalate. When, if, but when. I have to always say if, because they cheat. I would say when if they didn't cheat, but they cheat. That's the one thing. They're great at cheating in elections. If we win, I'll get that thing settled before I take the office. I'll get it settled as president-elect. I'll get that war stopped.
Holding his first outdoor rally since surviving last month's attempted assassination, Donald Trump yesterday railed against Vice President Kamala Harris's approach to national security. This was in North Carolina as part of his week-long trip across the country to draw attention away from Democrats in Chicago and their national convention. Trump blamed the current White House for the deadly Afghanistan withdrawal and wars between Russia and Ukraine and between Israel and Hamas, saying that the world is on fire and Kamala and Biden have marched us to the brink of World War III.
The world is on fire, and Kamala and Biden have marched us to the brink of World War III. That's what we're in. I think, General, you would probably agree. You're one of the experts, I would think, right? I don't even talk to you about that lately. It's so out of control. I don't even have to bother. I just say, look, take a look. But one of the great experts, and we're on the brink. That's why this November Americans are going to tell Kamala Harris, that we've had enough. We can't take it anymore. You're doing a terrible job. Comrade Harris, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. You're no good. Right? You're fired. Get him out of here. All you have to do is take a look at San Francisco. Look at the job she did. She had one policy. If you steal less than $1,000, basically $950 to be exact, I want to be accurate for purposes of reporters. The fake news media, they want accuracy. They don't have to be accurate, but we have to be accurate. But if you steal less than $950, they basically leave you alone. So I have guys going in and robbing stores with a calculator. Let's see, this is $100. Did you notice? This is not going to happen in North Carolina, I don't think, is it? No. Let's see, that's $100, that's $59. Bing, 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 bing. Stop. But we don't want to go over $950. They walk out with it. Nobody does a thing.
He got a little sidetracked from national security to the state of San Francisco as a result of Kamala Harris. Trump was speaking at the North Carolina Aviation Museum Hall of Fame from behind a podium surrounded by, according to the AP, panes of bulletproof glass that formed a protective wall across the stage. The AP reported that part of the ramped-up security measures aimed at keeping Trump safe after his narrow escape in Butler, Pennsylvania. Storage containers they described as stacked around the perimeter to create additional walls and block sight lines. Snipers were positioned on roofs at the venue where old aircraft were sitting behind the podium, and a large American flag, typical of Trump rallies, was suspended above two cranes. The event billed as being focused on national security issues, again, part of Trump's week-long series of counter-programming to the Democrat National Convention. Allies have been urging him to focus on policy instead of personal attacks as he struggles to adjust to running against Harris, according to some of the power brokers within the Beltway. On Tuesday night, the convention served up a double dose of Obama firepower as the former president and former first lady both repeatedly tag-teamed trying to hit Trump with every chance they got. Michelle Obama said of Trump, his limited and narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. She also referred to a comment he had made in June in a June debate with Joe Biden, asking who's going to tell him that the job he currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs, she said, to a round of applause and laughter. President Barack Obama also mocking Trump, his obsession with crowd sizes, and called Trump a 78-year-old billionaire who hasn't stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It's been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that actually gotten worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala, the former president said. Trump briefly addressed the criticism, asking the crowd if they had seen the speech by the man he continues to call Barack Hussein Obama. He said he was taking shots at your president, and so was Michelle. You know, they always say, sir, please stick to policy. Don't get personal, and yet they're getting personal all night long, these people. He has a point, doesn't he? Because they do. They keep whining, as Obama said, about his attacks on Kamala Harris and how personal he gets, but yet they do this very same thing. Trump went on to say that he will quickly rebuild our military. Again, the speech in North Carolina, Asheboro, North Carolina yesterday was about national security. He went in great detail about how he will rebuild our military after what he described as Biden literally giving it away.
Starting the moment I lift my hand from the Bible after taking the oath of office, I will move to restore America to maximum strength and return the world to peace. We're going to return the world to peace. And mostly I can do it with a telephone call. You know, we don't have to send troops. I can do it with a telephone call. You go to war with another country that's friendly to us or even not friendly to us. You're not going to do business in the United States, and we're going to charge you 100% tariffs. And all of a sudden, the president or prime minister or dictator or whoever the hell is running the country says to me, sir, we won't go to war. I talked this world out of a lot of wars with telephone calls. I don't have to send in the troops. One of my most urgent priorities will be to quickly rebuild the readiness and spirit of the United States Armed Forces. And we had it built. We rebuilt it. We rebuilt the whole military, but it was decimated under this group of stupid people. You know, we had so much, when I came in, we had no ammunition. Did you know that? Remember? I used to talk about it. And I said, if it's true, which it was, why would you say that? We had people on television, well, the United States has no ammunition. You know, some things you just keep to yourself, right? Do you remember I used to, from North Carolina, do you remember I used to talk about that all the time? Those are my best witnesses, those ladies. There's about 40 of them. They're all over the place. And they're always perfectly coiffed and perfectly dressed. They're beautiful and they're great. But no, I used to talk all the time. If you have no bullets, I can ask this group of leaders, you don't talk about it, but you get the bullets really fast, right? So within a year, I had so much that our warehouses were stocked to the gills. We never had so much. I bought so much, missiles, everything. I rebuilt our military, but that's been all dissipated now again because we give it away to everybody. And for nothing. I mean, they don't do anything for us. We don't get anything. We don't even get a pledge that we'll pay you back someday if we have the money. How about that?
Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com. dawpickens.com. Montana has joined a growing list of states putting abortion rights on the ballot this November. Now, this is an issue that we know is going to be tricky headed into November. The Democrats, and we've seen it this week during the Democrat National Convention, the Democrats want abortion to be front and center. They'd much rather talk about abortion than the economy or immigration, because they feel like that abortion can be a wedge issue that they can use to bring people to their side. So what we've seen, of course, with the reversal of Roe v. Wade, we've seen states do a lot of different things. A ballot initiative that would enshrine the right to an abortion in Montana's state constitution was approved this week and will now be on the ballot before voters this fall in Montana. Montana is the 8th state to include an abortion rights initiative on the ballot. Abortion rights will also be on the ballot in Arizona this fall after the state Supreme Court unanimously rejected a challenge that sought to keep voters from deciding whether to enshrine this fundamental right in their constitution as well. And, of course, Arizona is a battleground state. Arizona's top court emphasized that it wasn't agreeing on the morality of abortion, but rather whether the initiative could appear on the ballot. Arizona Right to Life argued that the description of the measure used to collect the signatures that they had to collect a lot of signatures to get this initiative on the ballot. They're saying that it was misrepresented, it was misleading, and they were asking the court to invalidate it, claiming that a lot of people signed the petition not knowing what they were really signing. The state court rejected the argument, and an opinion that was handed down this week. The court noted that the measure's principal provisions, number one, establishing a fundamental right to abortion under the Arizona Constitution, number two, the scope of that right before and after fetal viability, and number three, the preclusion of the state from penalizing a person for assisting another in exercising that right. In other words, a doctor. The court said that the description wasn't objectively false or misleading and that it, quote, explains each of these provisions and the tests that would apply to restrictions upon that right. The court said the description wasn't required to explain the initiative's impact on existing abortion laws or regulations, saying that the state law currently prohibits elective abortions after 15 weeks. The court said that a reasonable person would necessarily understand that existing laws that fail the prescribed test would be invalid rather than continue in effect. Now, the anti-abortion challengers also argued that the initiative itself is misleading, but the court said that that wasn't the issue in the appeal and that the proper place to argue that is in the political arena. According to Arizona for Abortion Access, which backed the proposal, the Arizona Abortion Access Act, Proposition 139, making abortions a fundamental right would mean that the state can't limit abortion access before fetal viability without establishing that the limitation, number one, is solely to protect the health of the patient, number two, doesn't infringe on their autonomous decision-making, and three, uses only the least restrictive means. It further says that the act protects abortion access after fetal viability if a treating healthcare provider, a doctor, determines an abortion is needed to protect the life or physical or mental health of the patient using accepted clinical standards and evidence-based medicine. Now, as you can imagine, many people are concerned particularly about the mental health part of that. That gives doctors a wide berth. I mean, I think the argument probably could be made easier if the life of the mother is at risk because of some type of physical risk that could cause her death. But when you start putting the mental aspect in there, that's a whole different field. We're going to see other states with this issue on the ballots too. Again, this is going to be a big issue, and it's just beginning. After Labor Day, as we start the real campaign towards November, abortion is going to be, millions of dollars will be spent trying to put abortion in front of us. The abortion rights advocates hope that the effort, of course, will restore the issue of reproductive health access, and that's what they love to use that term, reproductive health. They don't want to talk about killing babies. They don't want to talk about abortion. It's the right of a woman's reproductive health access. This, of course, after the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade in 2022, it eliminated the national right to an abortion. Most of the proposed ballot measures that we're seeing now to enshrine the right in state constitutions, they follow a series of what were called trigger laws that went into effect following the Dobbs decision, along with abortion policies that were handed down by politicians or decided by state Supreme Courts since that decision. Some are up against a handful of countermeasures that are aimed at restricting abortion access. And that's, these groups like Planned Parenthood, they don't care how they do it. They just want to stay in business. Most Republican-controlled states have passed abortion restrictions since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. 14 have banned it at every stage of pregnancy. Most Democrat-led states have laws or executive orders to protect the right of abortions, to allow women to have access to it. Voters in all 7 states that have had abortion questions before voters since 2022, California, Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, Montana, Ohio, and Vermont, have sided with abortion rights supporters. That's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? But that's reality. So what do we have in front of us? Montana Secretary of State announced this week that an abortion question had qualified for its ballot. So we know that Montana, people in Montana are going to be going to the polls with this question in front of them. They have, like so many other states, they had a legal battle going on to get this on the ballot. After this legal battle over, again, ballot language, just like in Arizona, the Montana Supreme Court wrote its version of the language that would appear if enough valid signatures were certified. They needed to submit about 60,000 signatures. Sponsors turned in nearly twice that, at about 117,000, according to the Secretary of State's office. Abortion is already legal until viability in the state under a 1999 Montana Supreme Court opinion. We just talked about Arizona. Arizona presently, their decision in November would be whether to amend the state constitution to add the right to an abortion up to 24 weeks into the pregnancy. The Arizona Secretary of State's office there said that on August the 12th, it had certified enough signatures to put the measure on the ballot. And again, they've had some legal challenges, as we just discussed. Colorado's top election official confirmed back in the spring that a measure to enshrine abortion protections in that state had been met. Amending the Constitution requires the support of 55% of voters. Abortion is already legal at all stages of pregnancy in Colorado. Supporters said they gathered nearly double the required number of signatures needed. Florida, the state Supreme Court ruled in the late spring that a measure to legalize abortion until viability to go on the ballot despite a legal challenge from the state. Attorney General Ashley Moody had argued that there are differing views on the meaning of viability and that some key terms in the proposed measure are not properly defined. To pass, the measure needs the support of at least 60% of voters, which is a pretty high threshold that supporters hope to reach after collecting nearly 1 million signatures on the petition to get it on the ballot. Currently in Florida, abortion is legal after the first 6 weeks of pregnancy under a law that took effect May 1st of this year. And again, other states, Maryland, for example, Maryland voters will also be asked this year to enshrine the right to abortion in its state constitution. Abortion is already allowed in Maryland until viability. Missouri, they'll decide whether to guarantee a right to abortion with a constitutional amendment. Presently, they have a near total ban. The Secretary of State's office certified August 13th that an initiative petition received more than enough signatures from registered voters to qualify. The Missouri ballot measure would create a right to abortion until there is a significant likelihood of the fetus's sustained survival outside the uterus without the application of extraordinary medical measures. I have no idea how long that is. Nevada also announced in June that a ballot question to enshrine abortion had been, that the signatures had been, requirements had been met. This amendment would ensure abortion access for up to 24 weeks of pregnancy or later to protect the health of the pregnant woman. To change the Constitution, voters would need to approve it in 2024 and then again in 2026. South Dakota is on the list too. They'll decide very similar to the other states. New York also. In Nebraska, they have two different measures that will be on the ballot. One would enshrine the right until viability. The other would write into the Constitution the current law, which bans abortions after the first 12 weeks. Again, this is going to be a huge issue, folks. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, texter writes, found I can tolerate Senator Schumer really well as long as I mute the TV. Thought he looked like he'd been giving away way too much caffeine. What a waste of good money. Texter says, Joey, Trump really needs to jump on board with offering RFK Jr. a position on his cabinet. What better way to really make the leftists angrier than they already are? You know, RFK probably would be a good move. Now, of course, the left's going to accuse Trump of pandering, but hey, that's part of the game, isn't it? That's part of politics. You don't think that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is not already making promises to people for positions in a potential Harris-Walz administration? Jeff writes, I think Lindsey Graham is a snake in the grass. He did not support Trump. If we had someone in the primary, his butt would have been gone, but he has so much money. It's hard to beat him, but he's no good. All right, Jeff. Appreciate that. Look, Lindsey Graham, people go hot and cold on Lindsey Graham. He'll come through with just a great idea at times, but then he'll come back and shoot himself in the foot. But look, when it comes to Donald Trump, I can promise you, I don't think he's going to turn his back on Lindsey Graham. They may argue back and forth publicly, but they'll be playing golf this weekend. Texter says, did I hear you right? Jimmy Carter's grandson left under God out of the pledge? Jimmy Carter would have never done that. You know, I just read to you what he said, and I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. He did. I don't know if that was purposely or if the report that I read from just got it wrong to begin with. Texter, Joey, this is Stephen from Greer. If Joe Biden is on vacation in California and Kamala is on the campaign trail, who's running the country? Well, look, you know what, Stephen, that may be a good thing to have both of them out of D.C., not messing something up. Texter says Methuselah was 969 years old, Joey, so she was not the oldest person to ever live. Oh, so I got you. I was citing a news article of I think she was, 115, where the oldest person currently had passed away. So you're right. She was not the oldest person to ever live. She was of recent history, I guess you could say. Here's a great article, and I love these types of news stories. It's about a New York woman who was threatened with eviction because she owns 3 parrots. But they're not just any kind of parrots. They are emotional support parrots. She was given $165,000 in damages. This decision was handed down earlier this week. Merrill Lesser's apartment building board was also ordered to pay her $585,000 for her shares in the co-op, and told to adopt a reasonable accommodation policy for assistance animals. Lesser and her parrots, Layla, Ginger, and Curtis, moved into the 175-unit building in Manhattan in 1999. Neighbors started complaining about the noise about 16 years later. Although city inspectors followed up on the complaints 15 different times over this period of time, they found no violations. Lesser's attorney says that no one could ever hear the parrots, or no one outside of those complaining had ever been able to really put their thumb on a particular time that the parrots had been so loud that it had disrupted anybody. Despite Lesser presenting the board with a letter from her doctor that said that she needed the birds for emotional support, they started the eviction process in 2016. The court case is just culminating. I mean, I've obviously heard of emotional dogs, but emotional parrots? You know, I'm seeing more and more people with their emotional dogs on board airplanes these days. It used to be that it was a pretty big deal to have your dog on board, but now, and I'm not talking about small dogs. When I was trying to make my way back from Milwaukee, from the Republican National Convention a month or so ago, there was a big yellow lab in the seat in front of me, just curled up under his owner's feet. I would be terrified to take Jesse and Simon on a flight with me now. Now, both of them have been on airplanes because both of them I picked up at the breeder in New Hampshire, a lady that Peg and I have known for a long, long time. So both have been on an airplane before, but it was when they were just small puppies, and I was able to tuck them under the seat in front of me, and I could let them kind of stick their head out of the little carrier. And that was before they even knew they could bark. I would be absolutely horrified to have them on an airplane now. Do you take your pets? Send me a quick note. Send me a text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Many of you have emailed me and texted me saying that the Democrats are up to something, that you are expecting some type of surprise between now and November. Are they going to try the COVID trick again? A new wave of COVID is sweeping the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They report 32 states have been found to have very high levels of the coronavirus and its variants in their wastewater. The findings mark the biggest spike in COVID cases since January of this year. Of the affected areas and states, those on the west side of the country are faring the worst, with southern states coming in a close second. According to the CDC expert Aaron Hall, he said, at this point, COVID-19 can be described as an endemic throughout the world. Now, I've seen where we're having high levels here in the Carolinas. Surely they're not going to try to pull this again. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.